tell you a couple of things about learning English as a second language.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I have an accent. I've been here 57 years, right? I'm very proud of that. And let me tell you why. I came when I was 13 years old. Your vocal cords develop at the age of 11. So unless you are going to pay people to teach you and train you to, and some people do, by the way, to work on having this accent, you will always have it. If you're over 13, if you're over 11 years old, when you enter the United States, 1. 2, be proud of your culture and climate.
Ask you a question. Does it even really matter if this machine works? Accent doesn't mean that you are incapable. You can't. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I tell people if they ever mention it in any way, I say, just so you know, I am proud of my accent for several reasons. 1, I can read, I can write, I can speak fluently in Spanish. I can also translate, and I can actually translate simultaneously. That's a gift that most people don't have.
Right.
But being able to read it, write it, and correctly. One of the tricks that I encourage you is that do not lose your first language. Work hard at it. I don't know if you spoke a different language before you came to the United States, or I have a friend that comes from Jamaica. And so she still says, after over 50 years of being in the United States, she still says vegetables instead of vegetables, the way English-speaking people say it. But she can speak that way because that's how they spoke it. Jamaica is an English-speaking island, but that's how she says it, right? Be proud of that. And in my particular case, I am extremely proud of my culture, where I come from. I'm also very proud that after 57 years in the United States, I still speak Spanish. I read it, write it, and can translate documents. I can translate in a school setting an IEP, which is very difficult because it's very specific language. I can do many things that other people can, that have opened doors for me to be able to work and be hired because I'm biliterate. And so, be proud of that.
I'm so jealous because I have been losing my other language, which is French. It doesn't make bread here. It doesn't gain you anything. So I put all my energy, my whole being into English. And now I'm in a bubble where I think like, okay, English is okay. I can communicate. I can do work. But I'm losing the best language that brought me, that really that I am proud of, because French is really a good language, but it doesn't make anything here. My mother tongue, of course, I would never forget that language. But now that you're speaking of being proud of whatever your roots are, I better get back to French, because I feel like a little bit ashamed that I'm losing it. Like I can still communicate, but I'm not that confident anymore. And I'm not sure about even, formal documents and stuff. I can still read and write, but I'm not that confident anymore. And I should. Yeah.
The other thing about language that's extremely important, that when we come into the United States as immigrants, we must remember, keep your language pure. If you speak English, if you are speaking in English, speak in English, the best English that you can speak. If you're speaking in your native tongue, do that as well. One of the commitments we made as a family, my mother, my sisters, my brother, and I, is that we would not use slang words, and that we would not
What that means?
What does that mean? That means that we don't use things like, what you talking about?
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Or there's so many but I'm not good at it, because we made it a point not to include that in the way we speak. I have friends that when they're speaking, they don't speak English or Spanish. They speak what we call Span English, which is a mixture of the two languages. And if you are going to benefit from having that second language, You must keep it pure as much as you can. And listen to well-spoken people in your native language. So in your case, I would highly recommend that you listen to people speaking in French so that you can continue and maintain that first language.
Right.
Our children in school, by the time they are in first, second, and even third grade, by third grade, most of them have lost whatever language they came to our schools with. And we need to ensure that that doesn't happen to us.
Right.
The other thing that I talk to people about, I do a lot of training with people that are going into administration if they want to interview. And so if they want to be an assistant principal, a principal, or go to a district level position, I practice and guide them into how to interview, right? And so my high recommendation for people is that they should never use words like you know. A lot of people use, and you might think, oh, what is she
That's a
talking
simple
about?
thing, yeah.
Right.
I'm waiting for you to say what's wrong with you know.
Well, I can tell you because a lot of people will say, well, you know what I mean. Well,
You know
I
what
don't.
I mean?
No, I really don't. Can you tell me what you mean?
Right.
And so a lot of people have a tendency. I had a friend, when I started my first year in college, I used to say, you know. Or in those days, I used to still say ifin. Like if you, but we say when we first come to the United States, ifin you know. Well, no.
Wow, my first time to hear that.
Right? And so I highly recommend that you avoid those words. And the reason why is because if you want your thoughts to be heard, and if you want your thinking to come across, you don't want to say, you know, 10 times in a sentence. Or a lot of our younger people say, I like, you know, like, well, I don't know what that means.
You see what I mean? You feel me?
Right. What in the world? No, that is not okay in my book.
Yeah.
And so those are the kinds of things that I highly recommend that you consider and think about. There's an author that I read and I share with people often called Ruby Payne, and she talks about code-switching languages in your language. And that means that when you're out with friends, you speak in one way, but then when you are in a professional environment, you speak a different way. And I try not to do that. So wherever I'm at, I speak English properly and to my best ability, or I speak Spanish properly and to the best ability that I have to do so.
I think the consistency is important because the code switch, then who knows what your brain is going to do when you switch. Sometimes you just feel like, oh, I'm stuck. I thought I was hanging out with my friends.
Right.
Like, so you got to be consistent, because consistency train your brain to be
exactly.
Yeah, exacting. Yeah. So let's move on your successful story. You mentioned a lot of like your journey from high school to bachelor's degree, and you have master's. Let's do that part particularly where you moved out, struggles, challenges. Not saying that they are all done, but you figured out how to break into U.S. workforce, how to live here, how to fit in the society. Let's talk about your journey of successful story.